Hello, hello, hello, it's Spud here and welcome to the first football video on the channel. We are looking at doing quite a few of these during the pre-season. This one I've been really looking forward to, and it is one player that each Premier League team should sign in the summer. So obviously, you know, every team needs to have a signing. You can't go into a full season without a signing. You just can't. You know, Leicester almost did it and look, they're relegated now. So I've got reasoning for the majority of them. I'm not saying that they're realistic, but the majority of them I've tried to make them as realistic as possible, because what's the point of me saying that Wolves need Mbappe? You know what I mean? We want to try and make it as realistic as possible, of course. I'm looking forward to it. If we could try and hit 10 likes, I'd appreciate it. We're going to do predictions, like transfer targets. We're just going to make loads of football content on the YouTube. Obviously, remember, we do stream over on Twitch. I'll put a link in the Twitch to the description. We are going to start streaming a bit more F1 when the new game comes out on the 16th of June. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, let's get into this. Alright, I'm looking forward to it. So one player each Premier League team should sign. I think I've put the webcam in the right place. If I actually, I'm just going to move it up slightly. Apologies about this. There we go, that seems better now. So here we go then, hopefully you guys enjoy, and let's get into it. So we're going to obviously start, it's in alphabetical order. I haven't done it based off where people finish, because obviously 3 teams have gone down. So we start with Arsenal. A lot of people know that this guy is a target for Arsenal, but I have gone for Declan Rice. He's been West Ham's best player for a while now, but realistically for someone of his quality, he needs to be playing in the Champions League. Now, the price tag of like 120 million, I think is too much, personally. I think, based off the current market, I think 80 to 100 million is fair. Obviously, Granit Xhaka is leaving in the summer. He's going to Bayer Leverkusen. And Partey's not playing well at the moment either. Jorginho's alright, but again, for his age, he's probably good enough to be a backup. I think Declan Rice would be a great signing for Arsenal, as they can try and battle Man City again. He as well, you know, his forward runs are good. So maybe he can play on the left where Xhaka plays, rather than in the middle. He's only 24, but for his age, he's a really good footballer. I do like watching Declan Rice play. I think he's phenomenal. I think he gets, you know, people. I see a lot of people saying he's not worth the money. He's overrated. I disagree. However, if he does join Arsenal, you've got to try and think that, will he do what Jack Grealish did, where at first he didn't look like he was. He just looked like an average player in a better side. But now if you look at Grealish, he's one of the first names on the team sheet. So if he does join Arsenal, I wouldn't base him off the first 6 months to a year. Right, we're going to go for Aston Villa next. Now, it was a tough one. They've obviously been linked to Marco Asensio. But I have actually gone for Nico Williams instead. So he's a very good winger, Nico Williams. He plays for Atletico Bilbao. His brother is Iheanacho Williams. You'll know Iheanacho Williams. He's a quick and talented winger, and I think Aston Villa need better wingers, because Leon Bailey hasn't lived up to expectations at Villa Park. He looked good when he first joined, but then he got injury after injury. This season he's not getting the injuries, but he's not getting the goals or assists. Coutinho, again, ever since he left Liverpool, it's gone downhill. Yeah, he won the Champions League with Bayern Munich, that's about it. And Bertrand Traore is not good enough, to be honest with you. You know, he could maybe go to a lower-end Prem team, but Aston Villa, obviously, have had a brilliant season. They deserve to be where they are. Emery has turned that team around magnificently, sorry. Now, I know Buendia is kind of a winger, but if you look at how Aston Villa play, on paper it's a 4-4-2. Buendia plays with Watkins up front, even though he's not an out-and-out striker. And that seems to work. And obviously they have got Jean Duran, the young Colombian, on the bench as well. But I do think Nico Williams is a good addition to this team. He's only 20. He got 10 goals and assists this season in La Liga. I would say that Villa should look at potentially signing him. I know I could have just went for Asensio, like I said. I do think Asensio would be a brilliant signing, because he can play as a striker. He can also play out wide. He likes to play behind the striker, so he could play behind Watkins. You know, that could be a perfect signing for Villa. But I didn't want to just go for everyone that's been linked to each club. Moving on, we're going for Bournemouth, and I've gone for someone called Jordan Lotomba. Right, so Bournemouth have had a good season. You know, a lot of people, including myself, had them to get relegated. I think Gary O'Neill's done a brilliant job with the team he's got. Obviously, they have spent a bit of money. You know, that people forget that. But the players that they've brought in have done decent. I think a fullback is what they need next. I don't know if they've got a buy option for Matthias Viña from Roma, the left back. But I think they need a new right back because Adam Smith has been a good player for the club, but I don't think he's good enough to start if they want to stay up next season. So Jordan Lotomba's had a pretty good season for Nice in the French league. He's a Swiss international, I believe he's 24 years old. He can also play left back as well. So to have someone of that versatility that can play on both sides, I think will be really key for Bournemouth next season, because I think next season is a big season for Bournemouth. If they can stay up, they can stay up for a while. But obviously you see the second season syndrome that Sheffield United have had. Leeds have struggled since their first season back in the Premier League. Moving on, we're going for Brentford, and I've gone for Armel Kotchap, who's currently at Southampton. Obviously, if you don't know, Brentford have lost Pontus Jansson. He's gone at the end of the season. He's had a decent season, the captain. They need to replace him with someone, and they need someone that's young, but has potential to be really good, but won't cost an outrageous amount, even if they do end up selling some of their players. Kotchap has been one of the only positives in a dreadful Southampton season. There's only about three or four players that I could say have had a good season for Southampton, like Ward-Prowse, Lavia, Alcaraz and Kotchap. He's actually, barely any attackers have actually dribbled past Kotchap this season, regardless of the amount of goals they've conceded. I think he'd be a good addition to that Brentford team to play next to Pinnock and Ben Mee in a back three. He'd cost probably about £20 million, and I think that Brentford should go for this. He's 21, he's played for the German national team. I do know that there's other clubs that have looked at him. I know Red Bull Leipzig are also interested, I believe. But I think that Kotchap would be a brilliant signing for Brentford, as they, you know, they were close to getting European football this season. It was just unlucky that their last game was against Manchester City, and they had to win it just for a chance. We're moving on to Brighton now. Brighton's an interesting one because we know that Brighton just like buy players for cheap, sell them on for a huge profit. Brighton are set to lose McAllister this season. After this season, that's, you know, everyone knows that the most likely destination is Liverpool, of course. That might be later on in the video. They potentially will lose Moises Caicedo as well. I know Arsenal and Chelsea are interested. They should go for a player that's got potential, but already shown a lot of promise in a top European league. Yeah, people might call the French league a farmers league, but still, Enzo La Fee, right? He's leaving Lorient in the summer, and he's really young. I think he's 21. I could be wrong on that. He's between 21 and 23. He's under 23, alright? He's a perfect midfielder for De Zerbi. You know, he can attack, he can defend, his creative play is superb. Obviously, they're in the Europa League. They need to buy players that are going to be good enough to be in the Europa League next season. They can't just rely on players like Enciso or Ferguson, who just, you know, they've signed for nothing, pretty much. Actually, Enciso was quite a bit, but still. He'd probably cost about 25 to 35 million. He did put a video out in January to Lorient fans, saying that he is leaving at the end of the season. So they might be able to get him for a bit cheaper, potentially. But I think Enzo La Fee would play a similar position to McAllister. We'll have to see. Moving on, Burnley was a tough one. I didn't want to include any loans in this video. These had to be permanent deals only. Otherwise, I would have completely gone for Fabio Carvalho for Liverpool. Instead, I've gone for this guy called Mike Tresor. Now, a lot of people won't know who Mike Tresor is. I've probably pronounced it wrong. From Genk. I was having a look. He's actually had over 20 assists in the Pro League this season. That's phenomenal, by the way. And that is in an attacking midfield role. And he's quite young. I think he's 23. His company has links to Belgium, obviously, and has previously signed players from the Belgium League. This would just make complete sense. With obviously Burnley coming back up into the Premier League, they need to buy players that... They've made a lot of signings, Burnley. They have made a lot of signings in the Championship, and they've been brilliant. You know, I could have easily gone for Nathan Teller for this, by the way, and just said they sign him on a permanent from Southampton. But I wanted to go for someone that they don't already have to make it a bit more interesting. So yeah, I think that Mike Tresor could be a good signing for Burnley. I don't know how much he'd cost. He probably wouldn't cost more than 15 million. It depends how much Genk want and if they've sold him, of course. Like I'm saying, the high chance that they probably don't even get any links to him, but I'm just saying it could be a good transfer. Moving on, Chelsea, the money men. I've gone for a big one here, Victor Oshimen. And Kunku is already agreed, if you're not aware of that. It hasn't actually been officially confirmed, but Fabrizio Romano has said it for months. The obvious choice for Chelsea is to sign an out-and-out striker. With Mount and Havertz being part of a huge list of outgoings, I believe, I can see them signing João Felix on a permanent deal. But again, he's not an out-and-out striker. They need a striker to play in front of Nkunku and Felix. And then obviously you've got like Mudryk, who's struggling, Madueke, who looks quite good. Sterling's not had a good season. They need to sign a striker, and apart from Haaland and Mbappe, who's more informed than Victor Osimhen? It'd cost a lot of money. Maybe Harry Kane is more informed. It'd cost a lot of money, and obviously with that number 9 curse at Chelsea, they'd have to believe in Osimhen to be the one that could get them back into the top half of the Premier League. I'm only joking. That could get them back into Europe, because realistically, after spending that much money, they need to. Now, people going about, oh, Chelsea spent 600 million in the summer. Yep, they did. That is right. But you've got to remember they have signed a lot of youngsters. Carney Chukwuemeka, David Datro Fofana, Gabriel Slanina. You know, Malo Gusto's coming in. Now, I think Malo Gusto is going to be a good signing. Personally, Reece James's injury record, yeah, on his day, Reece James is world class. Alright. But his injury record is awful. He needs to be a sub right back, in my opinion. Because they, you know, just for a bit anyway. So that he can rest and recover, because Azpilicueta is done. He's not good enough. Chalobah's not a right back, and again, I don't think Chalobah's good enough for Chelsea. So, anyway, moving on. Crystal Palace. Now, Crystal Palace was a tough one. With Zaha's Palace future at stake, when I've made this video, I've decided to base it off the fact that he is staying at Crystal Palace. I will say this, if it was announced he was leaving, I would not have gone for Maxime Busi. I would have actually gone for Jack Clarke from Sunderland, funnily enough. Because I think Jack Clarke could be a good replacement for Zaha with a lot of potential. But we've gone for Maxime Busi. With Joel Ward, he's getting older. Yeah, he's a fan favourite at Crystal Palace due to how long he's been there. Nathaniel Klein is getting old now. They need fresh legs at right back. Busi's had a decent season for Reims in Ligue 1 with Will Still. Obviously, everyone knows Will Still. And the Belgium international should be a good addition to that Palace squad. I think that they need a right back. I know Chris Richards, the American, can play at right back, but again, you kind of want someone that's an out-and-out right back, and I think Maxime Busi could be the one. I don't think he'd cost more than £5 million. Maybe 7.5, I don't know. Again, this is a player I don't expect to get linked at all, but Crystal Palace have bought players from the French League in recent seasons and have been a success. For example, Cheikh Doucouré, who got, I think it was Player of the Season. It was one of the Player of the Season awards at Crystal Palace. He did win that. Palace fans know he's had a brilliant season. Moving on. Everton, Milos Kerkez. Now, no one will have heard of him probably. But Everton, you all know, Everton have really injury-prone fullbacks. Seamus Coleman's close to retirement. Nathan Patterson's injury-prone. Mikalenko keeps getting injured. They can't keep playing players like Holgate, who was terrible, by the way, and Godfrey at fullback. So Milos Kerkez is only 19 years old. He's had a really good season with AZ Alkmaar. Now, obviously, they will be getting Conference League at the minimum. We'll find that out later. They are having European football, though. They desperately need a fullback. And this is a guy that would put his body on the line for the team. There's actually a clip of him doing that. The Hungarian has had a really good season with AZ Alkmaar in the Dutch League. And I believe that Everton really need 2 fullbacks and a striker. 2 fullbacks and a striker are the positions that Everton desperately need in the summer. Because Maupay is terrible, Calvert-Lewin's injury prone, and Sims is championship standard. So yeah, I've gone for this guy. Moving on. Fulham, I've gone for Djibril Sow. I'm not sure how to pronounce the surname. Or the first name. Even though Harrison Reed has had a good season for Fulham, He's very underrated, Harrison Reed. I do believe that they need to give João Palhinha a stronger partner in order to fight for a European place next season. As well, it will help with rotation, because they have got Sasa Lukic as well. 4 midfielders that can play in that double pivot behind the attacking 4 would be pretty good for Fulham, especially if they did qualify for a European competition next season. They've got the rotation. He's a Swiss midfielder that has European experience and did win the Europa League in 2022 with Frankfurt against Rangers. And as I've already mentioned, if there's an injury to Harrison Reed or to Palhinha, if there was injury or suspension to both, because if you know, Palhinha gets a booking a lot of the time. So if he's suspended and Harrison Reed's injured, they'd have to play probably Sasa Lukic and Tom Kearney, and obviously that's not as strong as Sasa Lukic and Djibril Sow. Vice versa, you know. So I think he'd be a good signing. Again, I don't expect it at all. Alright. That was just one that I think would work, but it's not one that I expect. Most of these I don't expect to happen. Liverpool, I do expect this one to happen. I have faith that this one's going to happen. Alexis McAllister. Liverpool desperately need a couple of midfielders. They've needed it for years, but the owners were like, and Klopp were like, oh, let's wait for Bellingham, and then they've been priced out of it. AK doesn't want to join Liverpool because we're in the Europa League now. If they want to compete with Man City, Arsenal, Man United, Newcastle, Brighton, Chelsea, Spurs, whatever, they need 2 or 3 midfielders. I'd say 3 personally. Bellingham won't happen, as I've said. McAllister is definitely the next best option. He's a midfielder who can defend and attack and press. He's obviously a World Cup winner. He got an assist in the final. He's a bit of a similar player to İlkay Gundogan, and I do believe that Liverpool need an İlkay Gundogan type of player if they want to win more trophies. I believe Gini Wijnaldum was a... I believe that Gini Wijnaldum hasn't been replaced yet. Thiago's injury prone, Henderson's past it. Curtis Jones has been a good player, but he's not good enough to start in my opinion. I think Bajetic's been good. You know, Fabinho's playing better now. But I do think that Liverpool need to sign another defensive midfielder. I would actually move Bajetic to play as a number 8. As rotation in that number 8 with hopefully a right centre mid. I do hope it's Lavia that Liverpool sign, by the way. It is a risk for McAllister though if he does join Liverpool. You know, reports in Argentina are saying it's done. It's a risk by not going to a Champions League team, especially the fact that Brighton did qualify for the Europa League. But obviously has faith that Liverpool will turn it around next season. Luton Town. First of all, congratulations to Luton for being in the Premier League for the first time. And I've gone for Kelechi Iheanacho. I didn't want to go for a random player from a different league. You know, I almost went for Nicholas Jackson from Villarreal. But I thought, it's the first time Luton have been in the Premier League. They need a striker with Premier League experience. Iheanacho always finds a goal in the domestic cup competitions, but doesn't really get enough game time. He's not had a great season, really, for Leicester, but no one has for Leicester. They're relegated now because of that. I think he'd be a strong addition to the squad. I'm not saying he'd be a marquee signing, but I think to keep them up, he could definitely get 7-8 goals in that Luton team, which will have a lot of different players. And I do think, you know, they'll hopefully get Nakamba and Drama on permanent deals. But then again, I didn't just want to go for loan players that are permanent like Nathan Teller. Manchester City was a tough one, to be honest with you. It all kind of depends on if Gundogan signs that contract or not, because I feel like if he didn't, they'd go in for McAllister, but hopefully it'll be too late. Obviously, there's rumours Bernardo Silva leaving, Laporte, and that's why we've gone for Piero Hincapie. I know I've pronounced that wrong. He's a young left centre-back that's thriving under Xabi Alonso at Leverkusen. I believe he also played in the World Cup for Ecuador. I hope I haven't got that wrong. However, with Laporte likely to leave, they do need another left centre-back because obviously Ake has had a couple of injuries recently. They need the rotation. This guy is really young, but has been playing in the Europa League this season, so he has European experience. Obviously, they got knocked out the semi-finals by Jose Mourinho's Roma side. He plays in the back 3 as well. Perfect for Man City. As Man City normally do well in all domestic competitions, they do well in the Premier League, they do well in the Champions League, they play a lot of games. So I think it would be another good signing. Could be a surprise signing if it happened like a Akanji, because there was no links with a Akanji at all, and then it just happened, and he went from being 4th choice at Dortmund to having a brilliant season at Man City. So yeah, I've gone for him. Man United, I've gone for Harry Kane. They can't go into 2023-24 with an injury-prone Martial as their main striker. Weghorst is terrible and will not be signed permanently, I'm sure of it. They need to... Their priority signing has to be a striker. It has to be. Spurs are in a tough place right now. Kane needs that trophy in his career, and I think Man United will be the team that will get him that, unfortunately. He's one of the best Premier League strikers in Premier League history. The stats don't lie. And a move to Man United, I think, would suit him and would suit Man United. Would be very happy with that as well. Sorry, it would definitely suit Kane. He's had 28 Premier League goals this season in a terrible Spurs side. That's outrageous. Unfortunately, because of how good Haaland's been, Kane doesn't get a sniff at like Player of the Year or anything. I know he's 29. I think he's 29 now, and he'd probably cost about £100 million, which is a lot for a 29-year-old, but I think it's worth it. You know, they spent 70 million on Casemiro, and he's been a good player when he's not been suspended. Next, Newcastle, Kieran. Newcastle have been a brilliant team this season. I'm envious they've got Champions League and we don't, I'll be honest. However, they're not keeping clean sheets anymore. Only one clean sheet in the last 10 games, and that was against Leicester, who parked the bus and had one shot all game. I'll be honest, I don't think players like Dan Burn and Jacob Murphy are Champions League quality. The same with Almiron. And Dan Burn isn't even a proper left-back. They have two proper left-backs that can't get game time, Target and Lewis, who I expect both will be sold in the summer. It's mad to think Liverpool almost signed Jamal Lewis, but instead they went for Kostas Tsimikas. I really wanted Lewis at the time because I thought he looked really good at Norwich. I mean, remember Max Aarons? There was links that Barcelona were going to pay £40 million for him. He's second fiddle at Arsenal to Zinchenko, which I actually think is quite harsh because I don't think Zinchenko's been amazing in the last 6 to 8 weeks since Arsenal kind of collapsed a little bit. Should be playing regular football. I think this would be a big signing for Newcastle for the Scottish International. He probably cost about £30 million. Only issue is, there's one issue. His injury record is not good. So if they were to sign him and he gets injured, they're back to playing Dan Burn at left back, which isn't horrendous. But you know, if they're going to the Camp Nou or they're going to the Allianz Arena with Dan Burn at left back, it's not going to work out, unfortunately, for them. Moving on, we've almost finished, I believe. Nottingham Forest, I've gone for Angelino. A bit of a random one here, but obviously Renan Lodi is heading back to Atletico Madrid. And by his Instagram post, where he's like, he wanted to spend time with his family again, it sounds like he's not going to be returning to Forest. So they need to sign a left-back with similar attacking qualities. I've gone for Angelino. He's out of favour at Leipzig and was on loan at Hoffenheim this season. He got 9 assists this season for Hoffenheim. He can help Forest defensively and offensively. I think it'd be a good signing. Obviously, he played for Manchester City for a bit. He didn't do amazing at Manchester City, but obviously playing for Nottingham Forest, there's probably a lot less pressure on you. There's a lot less expectations. And with how Nottingham Forest played, I believe it's like a 3-4-3 pretty much. With Danilo or Johnson and Gibbs-White playing behind Awani. So yeah, I'll go for Angelino. Again, I don't expect this one to happen, but you never know. It'll be pretty cool if we see a couple of these signings actually happen that aren't expected to happen, like McAllister's expected to happen. It could all obviously go out the window last second. Until McAllister wears a Liverpool shirt, by the way, I'm worried. Even though he's my Discord profile picture. No, he is on the F1 JTL server because I've got Nitro. I can use different pictures elsewhere. Anyway, enough about that. Sheffield United, Oxlade-Chamberlain. With Doyle and McAtee heading back to Man City, Sheffield United need a couple of midfielders. The Ox will be a free transfer, obviously his wages would be a bit. And if he can show his levels before he got that awful ACL injury in the semi-final against Roma, then this could be a solid signing for the newly promoted side. Still has a couple of years left at the top, I'd say, and with obviously years and years of Premier League experience, this could work out for the Blades. It could also not work out. If you look at Jesse Lingard this season at Nottingham Forest, that did not work out. He's on 200 grand a week, I believe, free transfer, expected to help them stay in the division. Instead, he did nothing but make TikToks and dance. So it's a risky one, but I think Sheffield United should take it. Even if it's a 1-year deal with an extension, added into it, I'd go for it. Only a couple more teams to go. 3 more. Tottenham, I've gone for David Raya. Could have easily went for a striker to replace Kane. You know, Gonzalo Ramos was one. But the keeper is the most important position for Spurs. They've conceded so many goals this season. Lloris is not the same keeper anymore, and he's injury prone. David Raya has been one of the best keepers in the league this season and has made over 100 saves for Brentford, including 11 in one game, which is outrageous, by the way. He's not agreeing a new deal with Brentford, so it looks like that Brentford want about £40 million. They've already pretty much agreed to replace him with Flecken from Freiburg, which is fair enough. They'll have to they have to concede less goals, but obviously with Raya being behind the sticks, they can easily do that. West Ham, I've gone for Tyler Adams. Before Tyler Adams got injured, he was Leeds' best player. I think if he was still fit now, they'd stay up. They'd have stayed up, but he's obviously injured. The American was very solid, aggressive and calm on the ball. He's a leader, and with obviously Declan Rice being a leader and leaving West Ham potentially, Tyler Adams should be a perfect replacement. He's obviously captained USA in the World Cup, got them to the last 16 where they were knocked out by the Netherlands. He'd be cheaper as well because Leeds obviously have to sell all of their assets. You know, they spent 40... I feel bad for Jorginho Reuter, but they spent £40 million on him. He can't get off the bench. Even like they play wingers up, they bring wingers on instead of him. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I feel really bad for him, but they'll be lucky to get half that money back. Last but not least, you would probably expected this player to be on the list if you watch the Championship. I've gone for Wolves and I've gone for Victor Gyökeres. Since Jimenez had that freak skull injury against Arsenal, he's not been the same player. He was superb and scored loads of goals for Wolves. His partnership with Adama Traore was one of the best in the league. But since that, they've had no strikers that score goals. They signed a player who was, I believe it's called Sasa Kalajic, who after 45 minutes into his debut had done his ACL, and he hasn't played since. I feel really bad for him. He was like 15 million, I think. Diego Costa was a free transfer, 1 goal. Mateus Cunha's cost 50 million. Yeah, he's not an out-and-out striker, but 1 goal. Gyökeres was a superb player this season in the Championship and just narrowly missed out on promotion to the Premier League with Coventry because of penalties. He'll be hot in demand this summer. I believe there'll probably be 4 or 5 clubs that'll look at him. You know, for example, Brentford might because they don't have Ivan Toney, but they have still got players like Kevin Schade and Burmo, Visser, so maybe not. West Ham might look at him if they're selling Scamacca and maybe Sellings and Antonio's getting older. So, can he break that strikers curse at Molineux? Because it's not only Chelsea that have an issue with strikers, it's Wolves as well. Well, I appreciate you guys watching. I do. If you have. Is there any that you agree with? Or see happening, perhaps? You know, let me know in the comments. One player that you want your club to sign, regardless if you support a Premier League team, or if you support a team in the National League or the Football League. Let me know one player you want to sign and why. Can we also hit 10 likes? I'd appreciate it. Yeah, I'd appreciate if we could hit 10 likes. Because I've really enjoyed this video and just want to hope that we can get the... just get the recognition. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button there. Yeah, hopefully we can just get the recognition for the video. Actually hurt my throat doing that though. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I think that I've picked fair players, and I think I've explained why pretty well, to be honest. I didn't realise this needed been half an hour video though. Holy shit. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. I'll see you in a couple of weeks for the next one, hopefully. Alright, thanks everyone. I appreciate it.